Good morning, everyone. Anthony Tharp, making another insert. It's been a couple of weeks since I've been here. I was out for medical reasons and plus doing some documentation. But I really wanted to wait because I'm waiting from some documentation from the federal government regarding this whole matter and all that's going on and the things that we've been discussing for the last couple of weeks. So I might be a little low energy today, but that's good because all that's going on in the news and the news cycle is shocking for most people. For me, it's not. And for the persons who've been listening and following the videos I've been doing, you see it's exactly up the alley that we've been sort of threading and trotting and trying to get Jamaicans and people generally to wake up to the corruption, the insensitive nature and the dictatorial attitude of the government of Jamaica, the present government of Jamaica, and to some extent the negligence of the opposition, because the opposition is the voice of the people, the watchdog of the nation. And if they're quiet or mediocre in their approach of dealing with major issues, then we're going to have the problems we're now having. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. As I said, if you review the videos I've done before, you would have seen or come to the understanding that whatever we put out there is factually backed by evidence-based affidavits and documentation, and nothing we've said is conjured up or made up or conjecture. It's actually factual. And the reality of our situation is that it's coming to fruition. The things I pointed out, that it's coming to fruition. So I want to thank you for taking the time to listen. I know your schedules are busy and with all that's going on. If you're in Jamaica, you're probably in a worse mental state. If you're in the diaspora, you're probably panicking because you might have investments in Jamaica as well, or you're planning to have Jamaica as a backup, that fallback place that one wanted to have as a reserve for the future, and you're not sure what's happening. The one thing I can assure you, though, is that the only way Jamaica can collapse on itself, internally explode, is if we allow it. And if we allow it, and we allow it by just simply sitting by and begging these politicians to behave or do what's best in the nation's interest. I've always maintained that the reality is that these people work for us, and we have to stop being complicit and allowing them or giving them the impression that they are in control. They're not. They work for us. We are the majority. We are the numbers. We put them there and we can take them out. And that goes straight to the heart of some of the statements I've been hearing from this gentleman Clark and the Prime Minister and all of that nonsense they've been talking. And one of the talking points in trying to justify, and I'm going to deal firstly with this, offensive defrauding of the nation and the coffers of the nation, and not only defrauding presently, but defrauding the nation well into the future. Because if you haven't realized it now, the Prime Minister and all those people who will retire in government will be getting a pension, and that pension is based on what they're putting out now. And how ridiculous can we be in a nation that's dubbed the poorest nation on the planet, one of the poorest nations on the planet, can afford to pay people this kind of money? And this is a ridiculous notion that, they deserve an increase and that's justified. It's nonsense. So all those people are there trying to patronize these politicians as if, you deserve an increase, and so but it shouldn't be. No, deserve an increase for what? These people are making $9, $10, $7, $4 million take home. And the reality is, if you're not performing, why are you going to get an increase in salary? And how are you justified in saying you need this kind of increase merely because there's a formula that exists that nobody was using? Because that's some of the arguments I've heard from this gentleman Clark. And we need to drop this honorable nonsense. It's offensive to any intelligent person to walk around telling your employee, honorable prime minister, honorable that. It's offensive, and one should be insulted when you hear this nonsense, honorable this, honorable that. These people work for us. They're workers, they're employees. You have an employee come in and you kiss their butt, talk about honorable this, honorable that. No, we need to stop. We need to stop behaving like we are slaves or serfs or servants of these people. These people work for us, and until we start asserting ourselves as the persons who are in charge, then you'll be treated this way. I've said it before. It happens to us because we don't take action. Teachers, for example, nurses, doctors. Can you believe I sent out emails to the Nurses Association, the police, whatever organization they have, nurses, teachers, nurses, doctors. I've sent out information about stuff they can do and legal action they can take to take back what is theirs legally without consequence of any fallout to them in a negative way, and to assert themselves. And none have said anything. None has resisted and said, is this real? Is this real? So I am on one hand offended by the fact that the Prime Minister and his government could look in the face of Jamaicans and literally rob them. Because this is what it is, a robbery. And then come out with a threatening tone, threatening people. Guess what? You work for us, and if you're going to try to rob us, guess what? There are consequences. Eventually dictators get taken down, and you need to step up or step off. But don't come here thinking you're doing anybody a favor. And all this threat about sending people to pull people from under the beds. Yeah, you could pull out those idiots, yes, but you think we're going to sit around and allow you to intimidate any of us? I hear you threatening literally people on YouTube and Facebook and bloggers and all of that. Guess what? You can't threaten only people who are afraid of you and don't understand your position. And your position is as vulnerable as anybody else on the island. So don't threaten anybody. And just, if you're not doing your job, and you're not, you need to go. And you need to stop violating the constitutional rights of the people of Jamaica. When your constitutional rights are being violated, Jamaicans shouldn't sit down and take this nonsense. Giving this ridiculous notion that justifies, it's justified to rip off the nation because you deserve an increase. And what's even more offensive is stating that, oh, we need to pay these people more money if we expect them to perform. Guess what? This is an elected office. You're elected based on you putting yourself forward. And when you put yourself forward, you knew what salaries were being paid. You knew what kind of money was being made by these people. You put yourself there because you say you want to work in the interest of the nation. And then you're going to sit there and try to justify about if we want better performance from these people, we have to pay them. No, they should resign and go to private practice. If you think the money that government and taxpayers are willing to pay is insufficient, you should not run in the first place. You should have taken those people with criminal intents who plan to go in there and rip off the taxpayer, rip off the country, and tell them, leave. Go get a job in the private sector. That's where you belong. You don't go into office and then say, oh, well, the money isn't enough. You knew what you were getting when you got in there. So this attitude of a lot of Jamaicans, and I'm saying it to everybody who's out there patronizing these people, oh, they deserve an increase. Deserve what? You're not performing. You're ripping off the country, you're robbing the country, you're defrauding the nation, and you shouldn't get a dime more than you got when you went in because you know what was there. You knew. So now you get this idea that you're going to go in there and you're going to hold the nation at ransom because we're not going to perform unless you pay us more money. You see why it's so offensive? And it's nonsense. And I'm saying a lot of the bloggers, don't sit here and try to patronize them. Oh, they deserve an increase. They don't deserve a penny. They don't deserve one dime of taxpayers' dollars. They went in, they knew what the salary was before they got there, and they decided they want to, quote unquote, work for the nation's interest. And that's why we're putting ourselves forward. If you're not willing to step up and sacrifice a little for your nation, which is what you're asking everybody else to do, as I say, step off. Nobody's asking you to run for office. Nobody begged you to run for office. You put your body out there. You put yourself out there. And you shouldn't be trying to steal from people. Because that's what you're doing. Call it what it is. You're defrauding the nation. You're a bunch of thieves. And you need to stop doing it and try to justify it. Nothing justifies what you did, what you're doing, and what you intend to do. Because what you intend to do is rip off the nation into the future. The long, distant future. How dare you come and set up yourself so that you can retire, win or lose the next election, or retire. You set up yourself to get billions of dollars over decades from the Jamaican people that you don't deserve. In the meantime, you retire after going into pension or retirement, getting billions of dollars from the Jamaican people, the taxpayers who can hardly make their monthly needs. You set up yourself to get that retirement fund. Then you go into private practice, or with the various business enterprises that you use, the government entities or your time in government to set up or establish. And then you're still making billions of dollars in the long and the short run off the backs of suffering Jamaicans. So don't come here trying to do like you're doing us a favor and therefore we have to pay you. We don't have to pay you a dime. Leave. You don't deserve a dime from any of us. You don't deserve a dime from the Jamaican people, and you need to not only apologize, but you need to just resign. So I'm going to mention a couple of things apart from what I just said, and it might be all convoluted and mixed in, but everything is interrelated. As I've said in my previous videos, and I'm asking you to go back and review those videos because you see I'm on point. Don't worry about the length of the videos because, as I said, this is not entertainment. This is about us looking at our future. Everything is interrelated. The dirty, corrupt judges that we have that makes decisions for this nation, that continually rule in favor of these politicians and their friends, while ordinary people can't even get into court. While ordinary people go to court and they tell people that you can't represent yourself, which is a violation of the Constitution, because they don't want to rule on issues that put them into the limelight when people who step in there and know their rights and know the law can stay there and defend themselves. And we have a system that's supporting all these lousy people who call themselves attorneys who don't have the morality or the ethics to stand up for their clients. And they go in and get these judge-assisted wins and think they're good lawyers. Some people running around about their King's Counsel. It used to be Queen's Counsel, now they're King's Counsel. And they get these judge-assisted victories, which is not a victory because when you defraud somebody, deceptive measures of fraud, whether it comes out of a judge's mouth or your paperwork, it's still fraud. And Jamaicans must stop playing this game. And unfortunately, this fraud in the courts don't just happen in Jamaica. It's been happening from time immemorial. That's how they had us as slaves. That's how they came in and came up with tax rules to steal people's property from Africa all the way through the Americas. So, but then we've inherited a system that our own people revel in and continue to defraud us, take our rights and treat us like dirt, and then expect us to show up in court talking about honorable this and my lord and my lady. The whole concept of this lord and lady business is offensive. You're not Jesus Christ. We're talking about Lord. Huh? You're not the hands of God. You're talking about we must Lord this, Lord that, my Lord that, my Lord. Guess what? You're an ordinary man employed to do a job, and if you not do it, you must retire, you must resign, you must leave. You're not doing us a favor. So that said, I'm going to just address, I mentioned a couple weeks ago, I'm having a little headache. I said I've been out for some medical issues. Not done with it yet, but I had to come on today and say some stuff. And I'm hoping I can get Jamaicans, young, old, in between, retired, to take offense to what's happening in Jamaica. It's from one brazen act to the other. And I spotted it a couple of years ago, a couple of months ago, from the behavior of the Prime Minister. I remember one when I saw him go ballistic on a person asking a simple question. And I say, oh, that guy is not what he's presenting himself to be. Then, a couple of months ago, I heard him come out and talk some nonsense about, there's only one Jamaica or something to the effect. I'm not paraphrasing. Well, I'm paraphrasing, not saying it word as he stated it, but in condensing it. The guy came out and talked about not on my shift. You're talking about the sovereignty of the Maroons. Not on my shift or my watch. Who the hell do you think you are? The Maroons are an independent nation. When the Jamaican government or the Jamaican people got quote-unquote independence from Great Britain, the Maroons weren't a part of that system because they had a separate treaty. But I'm just saying that without going out into this whole historic nonsense. Because in the first place, you as a prime minister don't have no right to step on any platform or any podium and go talk about on your shift, your watch. You put it to the nation and you put it to the Maroons and say, should we incorporate and become one nation, or should we become independent nation in a cooperative venture? You don't go about you on your shift. Who the hell you think you are? And that's how you approach this whole administration and think you have the right to come and talk to people and do what you feel. Because on your watch, see, you think because you were elected, as I said, elected. You're not a dictator. You didn't get there by divine intervention. You're not a king or a crowned person that got in, like them British people who have this nonsense of king and queen and those foolishness. The whole thing of a kingdom is no longer existing in this country. It never existed. Colonialism. But that said, you need to realize that you're no damn dictator. And intelligent people are going to put up with your nonsense. Intelligent people don't put up with it. And you come there and expect to get respect. No, you need to resign. I mean, everything you've done so far with this country shows that you are the worst of the worst, and you need to resign and leave. Go find jobs somewhere else. Do something in the private sector. You seem to be a very good entrepreneur when it comes to making money and investment decisions. Go out there, go do it, and left the office of Prime Minister, so that people who really want to build their nation understand nationhood and the importance of that, can get in there and build a nation. And so be it. When the nation's economy is doing well, you reward the persons who help us to get there. You don't rip off the nation when the nation can't afford it. So going back to this whole ruling, a couple of weeks ago, I went in detail over a ruling made by Mrs. Justice Tai of the Supreme Court, where Justice Tai ruled that every developer in Jamaica, where she ruled against my company, but what in essence the ruling said is every developer that didn't have a real estate dealer's license was operating illegally, and any agreement entered into or subsequent to any agreement entered into is an illegal agreement, and that agreement cannot be enforced. And in fact, the justice went and stated to me in open court that I was lucky I wasn't going to jail, or because of all this illegality. Even though I signed documents, the real estate board told me we were operating illegally, and that was what the law stated. But she said it nonetheless. Why am I talking about this? Because I've pointed out to people in Jamaica that this ruling is one of the most significant and most important rulings that has come out of the courts since God knows when. And you know why it's important? Because not only did Justice Tai make this ruling, Justice Tai's ruling was appealed, went to the appeals court, and the president of the appeals court, leading that tribunal, delivering the judgment, stated that they were affirming Justice Tai's ruling, which stated that if you don't have a real estate dealer's license and you're a developer, whether you're registered with the real estate board or not, you're operating illegally. And that means any agreement, including negotiating for property to buy, which is ridiculous, but that's what they said. That's what Justice Tai said, and that's what the appeals court said. Any agreement whether a sales contract, a joint venture, any kind of agreement entered into by a real estate developer before, or anybody that wants to do real estate development, before having a real estate dealer's license, is an illegal contract and cannot be enforced. Why am I saying this again? Because a number of things came out of this, which most of us, and that's why I say Jamaicans at home, are complicit. And when you're complicit and somebody kick you in your behind and keep kicking you behind and you just take it, then you deserve it. So these teachers and nurses and policemen all deserve what they're getting, because I put this out there. I sent it to your organization and I said, take this and walk with it. Go down to NHT, because NHT also falls under that ruling and is operating illegally based on what the judges ruled. And when I didn't appeal it, and I stated in the video, I'm not going to appeal it. Why am I not going to appeal it? Because I wanted to give Jamaicans a gift. All these Jamaicans who are suffering and keep talking about, I'm suffering and not getting this. I wanted to give them a gift. And they just looked at me and kicked me in my behind. Because I am telling you, here's a judgment out of the Court of Appeal that says you can stop paying every mortgage note. You can stop paying any agreement you have towards an agreement with a real estate developer that didn't have a real estate dealer's license. And I've said to you, all you need to do, contact those real estate developers, find out if they have a real estate dealer's license when you bought your property from them. And if they don't have a real estate dealer's license, then guess what? Contact everybody else that you've been sending money to and say, I don't have to pay this. It's an illegal agreement. And stop paying it. Keep the money in your pocket until government solves the matter. And I've stated that based on the statute of limitation and based on how the law operates, the government will have to absorb that loss if there's a loss. The banks would have to absorb it, which they deserve, because they've been ripping this nation off, or ripping people off, taking people's accounts, billing them for not using their own money. And then you close the account, and when you go there and it's below what your balance is, you say you have to pay money to reinstate your account. So this whole nation has been ripped off from the private sector, banks, you name it, from government agencies, from the government, including, guess what, the real estate board, because the real estate board in collecting money from developers and registering developers and their developments. And then now this ruling is saying that the developer is operating illegally. And after I contacted the real estate board and sent them the ruling and said, what are you doing about this? They didn't even return my call until I finally got one of their agents, Mr. Brown, on the phone. And he said, well, it's not me that's dealing with it, it's the CEO and the lawyers. And up to now, not a word from them. But I'm building up to something, because there's another major event in the press that a lot of persons are screaming about Mrs. Holiness and her development, or 800 million development. Now, that's only one development. And I have nothing against the lady as a private person doing a development, or her company doing a development. But she's not a private person. She's a public person working for the government, working for the people of Jamaica. And so there's a major conflict of interest. And this $800 million lawsuit for a development in wherever, it could be Timbuktu, is in conflict with the rest of the nation's interests, because you're competing with people out there who themselves may be developers, private sector, and you're competing with them. And at the same time, you're setting up stuff so you can tax the hell out of these people. And you are taking advantage of major business enterprises and opportunities at the people's cost. And why is this thing so deadly to the nation? Because I am watching, and I sent information to a lot of bloggers, and I'm saying to all the bloggers that you need to address this major issue about the ruling from the appeals court. You're doing a lot of talking, yes, and a lot of talking highlighting the things that's going on, but you need to wake up the nation to things that are relevant and that they have control, and let them know we don't have to beg these people anything. They work for you. Stop pretending or acting as if these people are your bosses. You're the boss. If you don't understand that you can walk on the planet and don't think you're catching, then you don't deserve to be even participating in the nation's interest or business. Because if you believe that you're being done a favor by just existing, then something is wrong with you and you need to go get help. I submit that this nation must be going through some severe depression. Because people at home-based Jamaicans, I can't believe you sit there and accept all of this nonsense. I can't believe it. And thank God a church leader came out and said something. Thank God. I've been saying it. I said, review my videos. Everything I've been saying. Not trying to pat myself on the shoulder. Not trying to say I've been clairvoyant. But simply to say these are facts that we should know would have occurred. These are events that we know were going to occur because of what was happening and the action and activities of these people. So why are we out there now, everybody acting as if we should be shocked? I'm not. And anybody that's watching my videos has watched my videos and the information that's there. It's not just talking, it's not just conjecture, it's factually based information that I've been giving you. It's legal stuff that you can take and empower yourself, and you refuse to. So going back to these teachers, policemen and stuff, one of the things all of you need to do is simply stop paying your NHT benefits. That's one of the places that the government has been ripping off NHT. Your money that's put in trust. Guess what? The money you put in NHT is not money that the government owns. It's money that's being held in trust. That's why after a certain number of years, if they haven't used your money and you don't have used your benefits, you can apply to get your money back. Or that's the way it used to be. Don't get this impression that the NHT is a government agency and what you're paying to it belongs to government. No, but they've been playing on people's ignorance and then going in there and raiding your money, taking your money out, doing what they want to do with it all over, and don't explain how they're going to put it back. I don't remember hearing any kind of argument how this government borrowing from the NHT, the money is coming back. And then you hear about these monies that come out of the NHT end up being lost or ripped off. For example, the money that was put in SSL, did we ever have anybody check, do we have other investments in other agencies? And why you have Jamaicans' money invested in these agencies when it's not necessary to make huge profits? Why don't you set up a loaner agency within the NHT that can fund other people out there in business, in other enterprises, and you collect the interest directly rather than going through these banks? Everything is digital, soft copy. Here we're talking about going moneyless and cashless. Why you need the banks to be out there taking the taxpayers' money, lending it out? They're making a super profit. They restrict who gets this money and so limit the right of Jamaicans who are paying NHT to their own money. And then the government goes in, raids the coffers of the NHT, which is not money that belongs to them. It's money that belongs to the people. It's being held in trust. As I said, the NHT is set up where you make payments. And after a certain number of years, if you haven't used those funds, then the money comes back to you. That's how I know it used to operate. So, as a person that's paying into this, don't you think you should take control of your own business? That's your business. That's money you have in trust. It's not only money you put into these private investment houses. That's part of your money. And in fact, that's probably should be your most secured investment. But you need to find out what's happening to your money. So I'm saying to teachers, lawyers, teachers, policemen, nurses, civil servants, you've been kicked in the behind by this dishonest government and the leadership. Dishonest. Stop beating around the bush and pretending. This guy is dishonest. They're defrauding the people. They're defrauding you. And if you want to sit there and accept it, stop complaining. Just take your medicine and stop complaining. It's sickening to see intelligent people, quote unquote, so-called intelligent people, sit down and allow people they're put into office, elect into office, doing all of this mess, and you sit there and think you have to take it. No, demand that they resign. But that said, one of the measures that you can take instantaneously is to notify the NHT that they're collecting your money illegally. They're selling properties illegally because of the rulings from the appeals court. Withhold your deductions. Tell your employers to stop pulling out your NHT money. Send them a letter and take that money and put it in your own little kitty somewhere else. Save your money. The money you've been paying as mortgage notes, keep that and put it into some account someplace, far from the coffers or far from the hands of these thieves. And put those money there until you have a say what's happening in your country. Because guess what? The appeals court ruled and said what money they're collecting from you for these agreements coming from developers are illegal activities. That means nobody can come at you for it. And in fact, you should press the fraud squad or the housing trust, not a housing trust, what they call these people down there that's not doing their jobs, the real estate board. Ask the real estate board that's based on this ruling, why aren't they prosecuting the Prime Minister's wife? Why is Mrs. Holiness allowed to be operating and going to court on a lawsuit where the law says her company is operating illegally because guaranteed her company does not have a real estate dealer's license? Now, don't get confused. Miss Holiness or Mrs. Holiness, I heard, was a realtor. That's fine. Separate thing. She's operating a company that's a developer that's developing these projects, but this company doesn't have a real estate dealer's license, which means she's operating illegally, and the fact that she's operating illegally subjects her to prosecution under the law. And again, quoting Justice Tai, who threatened me after following the law. So why is Miss Holiness so boldly in court in front of these judges, spewing that she can't move our development forward because this lady is being a problem? Guess what? Miss Lady, whatever, you're Marlene, something another, I think. I don't know your name, and it's not important. But the fact is, I've sent the judgment to your attorneys. So let me tell you now. So if your attorneys don't use it and do the right thing, then you know what's happening to you. I've sent the information to your attorneys and the judgment, the written judgment, which I've also sent via WhatsApp to a few of these bloggers. The judgment. So nobody can guess. I think maybe Anthony Tharp is not giving us the full story. I gave you the judgment. I gave your attorneys the judgment. And all the attorneys need to do is file it in court and say to the judge, this matter must be dismissed. Because Mrs. Holiness our company didn't have the right to enter any agreements with anybody about purchasing land to develop or right of way or anything, because our company didn't have a real estate dealer's license. So I'm watching this. And I sent the information out because I want bloggers to take up the mantle and run with this judgment. Run with this fact that the real estate board has refused to protect other developers. And what is the real estate board doing now that Mrs. Holiness is in court? Are you telling me they didn't know that she was operating illegally based on this? And you cannot tell me now that they don't know about the judgment, because I personally sent it to them. I addressed it, and even before the judgment was made, I went to the real estate board and said, guess what? You have an attorney over there, Alexander Williams, and his partner telling the judge that they came down to the real estate board, and the real estate board is saying if a person don't have a real estate dealer's license as a developer, they're operating illegally. That lowlife actually came into court and said that, right? And so I went down to the real estate board and I presented what was being said. And I said, you need to do a brief. In most countries, they call it an amicus brief, meaning a brief or a statement written that's going to assist the court. A friend of the court down here, they call it. being a friend of the court. I said, we need a statement from the real estate board stating that this is not the case. At the time, it was some lady that was the real estate board CEO. I don't know what her name is. And though the inspector said, oh, of course you don't. But when she was supposed to produce the letter, and I wrote to the lady, no response, and I finally got her on the phone, she's going to tell me she doesn't comment on things in the court. Of course, I'm not one to sit there and accept foolishness. So I said, you know what, you need to get a job that you understand, a job description. Because if you're the CEO of the real estate board, and this is an issue, you've been out there collecting money from people registering as developers and telling us we're operating illegally. And now there's somebody in court making the statement, you need to step up and do something about it. She says she doesn't comment on stuff like that. Right? So what are you doing there? I tell her she needs to get a job she understands. Because she clearly don't understand her role as the CEO of the real estate board. So she's been replaced. So when I spoke to them recently, I am told that, oh, Mr. Brown, and I'm saying Mr. Brown, because I want people to know I didn't make up in this story. I spoke to Inspector Brown, whose designation on the website deals with developers and issues like this. And he said, oh, well, I'm not the one handling it. It's the CEO and the attorneys. And he's going to forward. And I gave him my email, I gave him my phone number, and I said, just in case they missed it, give it to them so they can get in touch with me directly. I'm still waiting. I'm waiting. I've been to all kind of medical issues back. Still going through some. Had to cancel all kind of appointments, and I'm still waiting. Because I have investors out there who invested in a development, and the ruling of justice and the appeals court ripped them off after we're doing everything according to what the law is saying. So here again, we're watching to see what happened to Mrs. Holiness's case. By the ruling of the court, it should be dismissed. And there's no appeal coming from me. And the rules of the court and the law of the land is that unless I appeal that decision, then guess what? The appeals court can't even rule on it again because they made this ruling on the question, on the issue. The Supreme Court cannot rule on it because they already ruled on the issue. And so I hear it's a Justice Batts, Mr. Justice Batts, that's there. And I have nothing bad to say about Justice Batts. I've been in front of Justice Batts, and even though he made rulings which were not favorable to me in terms of delays, I didn't find him to be doing it in malice or in any way corrupt. And if it was, I just missed it. But I'm saying Justice Batts, in my opinion, I have nothing bad to say about the gentleman. But he needs to recognize the fact that because this issue was already ruled on in terms of illegality, and the fact that Mrs. Holiness's company doesn't have a real estate dealer's license, then the case against the lady must be dismissed. No ifs and buts. So we're watching to see. And we're watching to see what happens, to see if we're going to get this preferential treatment. I say this to everybody on the court. Whether they rule that way or they rule the other way, if they rule in favor of Mrs. Holiness, I have a strong case. If they rule against Mrs. Holiness, I have a strong case. So either way, don't think I'm sitting around and allowing them to rip off my 100 and something partners. No, it's not going to happen. I've said it before. All these judges who go in there and make decisions, including at the appeals court, who looked at a ruling that should be clearly overturned and embraced it, just throwing a monkey wrench in the system, thinking, all right, I'm going to throw it here and mess up Mr. Thorpe and his partners, because I've been quite vocal about what's going on the corruption. So when I throw that monkey wrench in the system, the obvious thing that I should have done was go appeal it. And I'm not appealing it because I said, A, it's giving a whole bunch of Jamaican workers the opportunity to protect their interests and to stop this corruption and keep money in your pocket and keep your property and have to pay a dime towards it. So if you don't want to take it again, stop complaining. They just put a big old boot up your butt again. And the fact is, if you're not willing to stand up and protect your own interests, why should bloggers be out there getting threatened by the Prime Minister's office and threatening and telling bloggers that they're telling lies on him and all that nonsense? I heard the nonsense. I've been listening. The Prime Minister should be dignified enough or undignified enough to come out there and trying to use those silly excuses for poor performance and fraud. Because what you're doing is fraud. You're ripping off the nation. So, again, people out there in Jamaica, you need to step up or you're going to cause the country to fall into anarchy. People can only take so much. But it's up to you. And you can do this before your country gets to that stage. Before our country gets to that stage. Jamaicans outside and in the diaspora are major supporters of the Jamaican economy because we send a lot of resources there, whether it's through property taxes, remittances to relatives or for business purposes. A lot of revenue comes this way. So we have every right to say what we want to do. Plus, we don't have to be sending money home to have that right. We are born Jamaicans. We have every right to talk about whatever we want to talk about. And nobody's thinking we need somebody's favor or consent to say what we're saying. So before you open your mouth again, Mr. Prime Minister, giving the impression that, you're doing anybody a favor. You're not doing anybody a favor. You're a burden on the nation and you need to get the hell out of there. It's as simple as that. You should be embarrassed to even come in front of the nation with the nonsense you've been spewing. And Mr. Clark, I don't know where you get your degrees from, and it's not important because you must know you're talking a whole bunch of BS. And you're not justifying anything. You should resign. Because I'd be embarrassed as a person that's dealing with economics and accounting to come up with that kind of all those justifications that you're trying to come up with. They have no substance whatsoever in justifying what you're doing to the country of Jamaica. I don't know what your interest is in Jamaica, but it's certainly not in the interest of the building the nation. Because you're ripping off people and you need to resign and come out of there. All right? So, again, my Jamaicans, I'm not even asking you to subscribe. Because I'm not, as I said to you before, I'm not on this YouTube thing trying to make money off these videos. I want it to be there so you subscribe so the information gets out. Because I hear that's the so-called algorithm they use. The amount of likes, the amount of people subscribing so that other people can get it. Mass movement is what's going to change Jamaica. I have no issues with other bloggers making as much as they can because they're doing a lot of work out there. And yeah, they're justified in getting remunerated. All right, so if you guys sit there and keep your mouth shut about this thing with the Prime Minister of Jamaica and what they're doing with the Jamaican economy and taxpayers, then you shouldn't be objecting to subscribing to bloggers, because the more time they're dedicating exposing these criminal activity by government, then the better it is for you in the future. Hopefully you become more conscious of what you need to do as a people and stop being so complicit. Stop sitting down and think you need somebody else to fight your battles. Why should anybody put their neck out there to get it chopped off and you're the one that's going to benefit? And when those people lose their necks or are threatened, you sit there in the background and, you need to, I hear you telling bloggers, we're glad you're doing this and you should be doing this. And no, you stand up. Be the woman you should be. Be the man you should be and stand up. Don't act as if these people who should be working for you are doing you a favor. Fire them. And demand the election. I am utterly confused. The Constitution says you must have an election. So the man them violating the Constitution by not having the election or elections. They're violating the Constitution. The Constitution is what runs the nation. And most people don't understand, and I said it before, the Constitution is an agreement, a contract between the majority of the people and the minority of the people, saying that as long as you are compliant with the rules of the Constitution, then the Constitution is going to protect your interest, whether you are in the majority or in the minority. So you're not being done a favor. The Constitution states that elected officials work for the people, works for you, the citizens. So get out there, demand an election, demand resignations, because if you don't, you're going to be looking straight into the nozzle of a dictator where people disappear. Remember South America, remember Argentina, remember all those people were places where people disappear. That's the next move. You can't be critical of a dictator. Africa, Mussolini, Hitler. That's how they all started. Got up there and quote unquote, they're articulate. They're spilling all of this, riling up people who have your interests at heart, and then they turn around and destroy everybody. It wasn't just the Jews that were destroyed. They destroyed the entire planet because you hate that you spewed. The economies you destroyed, the lives you destroyed is still affecting us. And that's pointed to Hitler, Mussolini, you name those dictators. And so now the 21st century going into the 22nd century, we have Jamaica, island in the Caribbean, one of the poorest countries in the world, one of the most violent countries in the world. We have a dictator. Can you believe that? And you're sitting there with your mouth shut. Run the man out of office. Make him know we don't want you. You're doing this country harm. You're doing the people of Jamaica harm. And you need to go. Stop pretending that he's the person that makes decisions for you. You decide what you want, then you tell the government. The majority of people tell the government when they're elected on the platform, and you say, this is what we want, that's why we're putting you in there. And if you're not doing it, get out. I'm pretty sure Andrew Holiness is not doing what he's supposed to do. And the Governor General, why are you going to give the Governor General a 300% increase when the Governor General doesn't even work for the people of Jamaica? Work for the British Crown. Let the British pay his salary. Yeah, he's just a figurehead. All right? So the Governor General, who, by the way, will be got rid of when we do go republic, which is what they're working on feverishly to get done. So why are you going to put in a budget at $30 million, well, whatever, 300% pay hike for an office that's going to be vacant? People, you know, smell the rotting rat. You know, smell the corruption. And I think it's obvious you pay the judges a lump sum and a big chunk so that when these questions come in front of them, because people will be suing, they rule against the people. And as I've always said, and I'm not patronizing or trying to get any kind of favor with any judges. But judges who are honest, you're disrespecting yourself by allowing the dishonest ones to stay there. You're allowing the dishonest ones to operate and manage you. And you need to get rid of Justice Sykes. Justice Sykes is not doing his job. Come out all these speeches, everything about all kind of nonsense that he's not fulfilling. This front man, for what, I don't know. But Justice Sykes, Justice B. Morrison, your journey is not done with me because you're ripping me off. I'm still sitting here with my partners and we can't get matters heard. People owe us billions of dollars in damages, and we can't get our money because the court won't set a date where we can get a final order on damages that the court order or the undertaking that was given said we have to prove. We have proved our damages, and we're still sitting here years. Why are they allowing people to do all kind of fraudulent things out there and think it's hunky-dory and they're going to get away with it? Guess what? We put everything in place that we are protected. So all your crooks and your fraudsters and your complicit conspirators who are involved in the scheme to defraud me and my partners, you can do all you want to do. Everything is in place to protect them and protect us. So you might as well give it up. But as long as we have a government that's so corrupt and doing all of this, and most importantly, as long as we have people who are sitting around and allow this to happen and continue to happen, and then all we do is keep our mouth shut and hope that Jamaicans abroad are going to be the ones that are going to be standing up all the time and screaming all the time to protect you, that those days should be over. You need to step up, because if you don't protect Jamaica at home, how are we going to protect you? In fact, we don't even want to get down there because of our safety concerns, because we don't know who we've offended and who's going to be waiting for us. Because the kind of threats that's coming out of Jamaica sometimes from these political leadership or persons is utterly scary to people who believe in democracy. I want to thank you for allowing me the time. As I said, this was wasn't planning to do any videos for another couple weeks or days, but I had to come out and say something. And I'm hoping that you'll take action to get rid of the dictatorship that's now brewing in Jamaica, and the offensive nature and the offensive ways in which they've been treating the Jamaican people. It's frankly an insult to any intelligent person. You consider yourself intelligent? Then this is an insult to you. You need to step up and tell these people they need to step off. You need to tell me what actions you're going to take or what kind of pressure you're going to be taking to see how this court rules in favor or against Mrs. Holiness and her company doing developments when they don't have a real estate dealer's license. And then I'm going to be watching to see what teachers do, what nurses do, and what the policemen do in terms of protecting their own interests. And the law is on your side. What you doing? And you don't have to go down and burn down no place. We're not talking about that. I'm saying take action that's legal, legit. Stay home, cook and fry dumpling and saltfish if you have to. Don't show up to work. Don't go to work. Civil disobedience and this whole nonsense about them locking up people who demonstrate, that's unconstitutional. So you need to start reading your constitution. And when these people come out and round up their mouths because they got a big pay hike, that they're going to be locking up people or prosecuting people who protest, they're breaking the constitution. And if your constitution don't mean nothing to you and you don't protect it, then you're doomed. Because I said, dictators, that's how they operate. People are afraid to assert their rights. They sit there and allow them to be taken. And they take them a little at a time. Nobody does anything. The minute anybody came out and talked about locking up protesters, you should be screaming bloody hell. What's going on? Who the hell you think you are, threatening the Jamaican people that they don't have any right to assemble? That's a fundamental principle of the Constitution. Right to assemble. Right? Freedom of choice. Freedom of speech. People, Jamaicans, again, thank you. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. I'll be listening. I'm not sure how soon I'll be coming back with another video, but when it's burning, I have to come out. I'm calling on all the bloggers that's out there. I've sent you the information as well. take time to review it and address it. A lot of people listen to you. And as I said, this ruling from the appeals court and the Supreme Court is one of the most important ruling that has come out of the court for decades. And it makes a big difference in how you approach life in Jamaica and even life abroad. So please pay attention to it. And again, see if the courts are so biased and corrupt that they're going to rule in favor of Mrs. Holiness against this other lady. Let's see what happens there. So I'm hoping that somebody sends this to the court as well, because they need to know we're watching. We're watching keenly the real estate board, the fraud squad, because the fraud squad should be prosecuting Mrs. Holiness's company right now, and I guess the CEO who signing all those papers. They should be looking to prosecute her under this ruling. All right, so let's see. Not wanting Mrs. Holiness to go to jail, just saying we want to see how fair the law is and what they're going to be doing with this ruling. Because I'm saying, government, maybe the Prime Minister will now act to fix it. Because I wrote to them, and said, no need to fix this. It's not incumbent on me to fix corruption and complicity, or simply the incompetence of people you have operating in a court. And in closing, incompetent politicians, incompetent electoral officers or leaders that got there to form the government, incompetent judges who make ruling without checking facts and data or even the law. Why are we paying them for doing that? You tell me. You reward bad workers. And I remind you again, just before I close, this threat about, ministers of government, elected officials, are not performing because they're underpaid. Reminding you that they got there knowing what the salary was when they applied. And that don't give them a damn right to steal from the people. That's what it is. And the leader of the opposition, he knows all of that I'm saying to you, because I sent it to them. Well, I sent it to his people. And I'm pretty sure he's following social media. And he should have it. But I'm not making any special effort to get in touch with any of them, because they need to step up. So the leader of the opposition need to do the right thing as well. Help fix this nation. And all that nonsense that they're spewing about you, let's disprove them that you're the man for the job. And if there are Jamaicans out there who believe that they can play a role in fixing this nation and be satisfied with the money that they're paying, then go run for office. There are thousands of Jamaicans out there who are retired, have nothing else to do but sitting on the beach getting fat or lazy, that have all the experience, that can afford to give the time to the nation and do a good job because of their insurmountable, I don't want to use the term insurmountable, because of their extensive experience in business, in law, in politics, you name it, global experience. You can go for office and run out these people who think they want to go into government, but they want to rip off the nation as if they're working in a private sector. So step up. Either way, we need to get rid of this. Have a good one. Have a great weekend.